This is Heartrepreneur Radio, maximizing your personal and business results by leading with your heart. With your host, Terri Levine. Listen every week as Terri tackles the topics that will help you become a successful heart-centered entrepreneur. Be sure to read the blog posts at www.heartrepreneur.com/blog. Come back often and add this show to your favorite RSS feed or subscribe in iTunes. You can also follow Terri on Twitter at MentorTerri and on Facebook.com/Heartrepreneur Terri Levine. And now here's Terri.
Hello and welcome to Heartrepreneur Radio and TV with Terri Levine. I'm your co-host Velma Gallant and I'm excited to be here today. You can connect with Terri, me, and other like-minded heart-based business owners in the Heartrepreneurs with Terri Levine Facebook group. So go check it out. And be sure to like our show, subscribe to our channel as well. We love getting those 5-star reviews. Today's quote, "True prosperity begins with your soul prospering in love." Julia Lauren. So today's show topic is unlock the money in your mind. And our special guest this week is Melanie McCool. Melanie McCool is a professional clinical hypnotherapist who spent more than 25 years studying the workings of the mind, and she knows exactly what influences the behaviors of success. By combining elements of the neuroscience of success, money mindset, sales confidence training, and hypnosis, Melanie helps entrepreneurs quickly remove subconscious blocks and end the cycle of procrastination and self-sabotage. The result, both revenues and impact skyrocket. So welcome to the show, Melanie.
Thank you so much, Velma. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
So unlock the money in your mind. Tell me how you came up with that.
Well, what my full belief is that everyone has this incredible creative genius that they can either tap into or not. And the fact is there's opportunity around us all the time. Mm-hmm. When I realized that the reason that you can see and act on opportunity or not has everything to do with the programs, literally the mindset that you're walking around with, I thought, well, do a little tweaking of those programs and we can absolutely go forward and make more money more efficiently in ways that we couldn't even consider running the old program.
So you're saying that money's in our mind.
I'm saying literally that you have the keys to your prosperous future, and you always did. It's just that those doors were kind of locked by the programs, the conditioning that you may have been brought up with, that we have been brought up with, all of us, most of us, that are dealing with the conditioning that money's hard to come by. It takes hard work to earn money. Even things like money's the root of all evil, or you have to give up what you love in order to be successful. All of these programs that run in people's minds, and they were essentially put in there before they were probably even 7 years old. So your, viewers may be absolutely dead set on a dream, a conscious goal. And they do find themselves in patterns of self-sabotage and even procrastination on doing the things that would get them closer to that goal. And they may begin to think that they weren't even necessarily made up for this, right? That they weren't made for this. And they don't realize that all that's actually going on is that there are those subconscious programming that is essentially like one of the things that I just said. It takes hard work to earn money, or money's the root of all evil, rich people are jerks. Those kinds of things are running in the background, and it acts as kind of a brake in their business. So my work, what I teach people to do is get rid of the brakes, which is really, that's how you unlock the money in your mind. Because then you can go forward and do what you consciously want to do without being held back.
So what I'm hearing is, so one of the things that I heard quite a bit as a child was money doesn't grow on trees.
Right.
There were activities that I wanted to participate in, and in our family, the resources weren't there for me to be able to participate in those things for whatever reason. Money doesn't grow on trees. Now, even though I logically know this isn't true, I logically know that that's not a belief I want or consciously choose. You're saying it's actually an underlying program that's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Because we may consciously realize, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You can talk to almost anybody and say, oh yeah, I know where the lack was in my home. I know why there was lack. I know why I felt like there was never enough. I know why I, just spoke to a woman. She's like, when I find a pair of shoes, I buy 3 of them because, well, I'm afraid that I won't have, it doesn't make any sense because she's never had a problem with money, but she's afraid that next time she won't have the money to buy those shoes. And she's like, I know consciously that this is absurd. However, I'm still doing it. I'm like, yeah. So at, just about your age, consciously, it doesn't matter. It's the underlying programs. And this is the real root of why I do what I do, because so many heart-centered entrepreneurs are investing in themselves, the time, the energy, personal development, professional development. I mean, becoming absolute masters at what they do. And they don't realize why it's so hard. It seems hard for them to move forward. Even the belief that wealth isn't for people like us is so prevalent. And they don't realize that is why they're not taking that bold action or even seeing things as available to them to take the action within. Like you may have walked by five different ways that you could become a millionaire in your lifetime, but you didn't even see it because people like us don't take advantage of those things. People like us don't do those kinds of things. It just doesn't even compute as something that's available. And so all of the conscious work that goes in doesn't really make a difference. And I had to give this in a more a deeper way. There are people who deal with behavioral. They are doing behaviors that they know are absolutely harming themselves and their bodies. And they may say, well, I've been doing this since I was a kid and I had this trauma. Okay. So consciously, they know why. Does that stop them from doing the thing? No. But hypnotherapy can. And so in my mind, it is just as important for us to help the adult to realize that they're not still experiencing that trauma, right? So they can be free of that behavior, as it is for a heart-centered entrepreneur to be free of the program that kept them from thinking that people like us aren't wealthy. Money doesn't grow on trees. This isn't, I have to sacrifice what I love in order to have success, which is a great big fat foot on the brake. It's not happening, right? So if any of that stuff is running in the background, then they are essentially not free to apply all that conscious learning that they've been doing. But the beautiful thing is,
so I'm hearing things like could be things like successful people are never home for their families, right? Yes. It could be programming from an observation growing up.
Totally. And if you value family, then there's a part of you going, oh, no way, no how are you going to be a real success? Because then you'll never be home with the family that you love. Do you see? Like your mind, and it's the thing is, it doesn't have to, it's not that way today. Life is very, very different. Our opportunities are very, very different, which is why, it is also that if we can get rid of that poverty programming, we can install wealth programming and move towards a wealthier existence. That's not a question, but it's even easier today. Like we could have done this 50 years ago. Yes. But today I can say to you, that's completely irrelevant, isn't it? Considering that you're working from home right now. So being successful doesn't mean that you have to be away from your home or your family anymore, does it? No. Right? So are you free then to pursue your big juicy dream? Because you know that you don't actually have to give up anything that you value. Isn't it true that most of us were brought up, of course, things like money doesn't grow on trees, or it takes hard work to make money, and not even just to be successful, just to survive. Right. So our families may have worked long and hard because all they had available to them was that kind of work. mean, today we have more opportunity available to us. That is just, it is astounding, the difference between our existence and our parents and then our grandparents. And to know that our parents' beliefs about money and their place in the world as it relates came from their grandparents. And you can imagine their existence. So these are just, it's just being perpetuated, but it's really going to stop here because it's just not even the same time or place. I have to say, what's beautiful about this is once you do get that tweaked, once you get rid of the limits in your beliefs, all of that conscious stuff that you've been doing, it's in there. It's in there, right? And you can actually apply everything that you have consciously been learning. So it's never been wasted. People are like, I've spent all this time and all this money and all these things. I'm like, yes. And now you can have the aha, and you can just effortlessly apply instead of beating yourself up for all the things that you never applied. Thinking there was something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You literally just had, this belief that, here's another good one, was not good. Was that I'll be kicked out of the tribe if I'm wealthy, meaning like your tribe considered wealthy people to be, they thought that those people thought they were better than them. So you don't want to be perceived as better than other people, because then you'll lose the love of your family, get kicked out of the tribe. It's like massive one that happens all the time. Again, irrelevant, but it feels very relevant to the subconscious mind.
Okay. Yeah. I think you said something really important there when you were talking about the subconscious mind, because that's where the programs are actually running. So even though our conscious mind says, this is silly, this is untrue, it's our subconscious mind, which would be kind of like our hard drive, is the one that's running the programs. And so what I also heard was that it's not only a matter of uninstalling the programming that isn't service, but there's an opportunity to be installing the programming that would service. Is that correct?
Totally. Yes, exactly. So essentially the program is what was laid down before you were 7, or maybe a little longer than that. You can think of that as the computer that's running a show, the same 80,000 or so thoughts every single day of your life since you were a kid. Imagine that. And if you don't like what you see around you, it's because that program's been spitting out that reality all this time. My camera.
Oh, wow.
And so in that program, it has you feel a certain way about yourself. And it's those feelings, if those feelings are negative around money, any negative emotion, any negative neurochemistry is a foot on the brake. And so that's going to influence your action, or your, in this case, inaction towards your dreams. So what we do is we get rid of that sneaky poverty programming, get that out of the way, and install wealth programming, beliefs about yourself and your place in the world that are supportive, that are exciting, that give you the hope and the optimism for a future, right? Which, and then in turn, those are quite different thoughts. Those different thoughts give you a different feelings. Those feelings are of enthusiasm, of going forward, of excitement, right? Motivation. And those feelings are going to lead to far different actions and are going to get you closer to your dreams.
Okay. So what I think I'm hearing is that if I'm experiencing procrastination, I'm not taking the actions that I want or know I should be taking, there's likely some subconscious programming that is in the way.
Yep.
And if I take care of some of that subconscious programming, then the procrastination will begin to fall away. And I think what I heard too is that it's not just those things that are going to shift, but my eyes, ears are going to see or hear more than they would have previously. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So when you have a different program, right? And then you're going to take different actions. Your life is going to begin to unfold differently. And most importantly is that you will see opportunities that you didn't see before. Because when you're in the negative survival lack, which is what the poverty programming had you do it, you essentially had tunnel vision, or kind of like living in the now. You can't really think of the future when you're in that negative, I call it the neurochemistry of lack. It's, guilt, shame, should be further along than I am, comparisonitis, and imposter syndromeitis, all of that stuff is, that's a negative neurochemistry, and you can't really even necessarily see opportunity that's around you. And what you instead end up with is a waking up with enthusiasm, almost compelled to get things done. And then seeing what you couldn't see before, which is ways to get it done more efficiently. Whatever it is, whatever you're wanting to get done. Doors open, but those doors were probably opened before. You just didn't think, oh, that would be a good idea for me to go and knock on that door. So now you feel like you can knock on a door because you're thinking of the future. The future is available.
So you were talking a little bit about some of the lack programming as being in survival mode, right? And when I think of survival, what ends up popping up for me is fight, flight, or freeze.
Correct.
And so are we in survival and freezing when we're procrastinating?
That's exactly right. So one of the symptoms of stress. Using the word stress just seems so general, and people go, oh, I know what stress is. Stress is from this and stress is from that. My point is the biggest source of stress is the program. Okay. So yes. And that program's been going on for a really long time. The freeze response is what happens when there is, there's nowhere to go. And this has been going on for a really long time, right? You're not going to fight. You're not running. This is the freeze response. And procrastination. People end up, scrolling on social media, binge watching things. But they could also be, shopping, retail therapy, all these kinds of things that just keep them from doing the thing that they know that they could and should be doing that would bring them closer to their happiness. So procrastination is a stress response. The stress in this case, I'm going to say, is coming from that break, the poverty programming that's in the mind that's saying it is dangerous, or it's not right, it's wrong in some way for you to go and make more money, for you to be successful in business, for you to pursue actually anything that would make you happy. Because that's we're talking about prosperity. It's not just about the money, is it? So in some ways, this could literally be, I don't really deserve to be happy. People like us aren't happy.
Right.
Like, whoa, like crazy. So if I go after my dream and I feel fulfilled, that's happiness. Like if I'm happy, do I feel guilty? Look at that. Why would do you see?
I do.
That's an underlying program. It says, and sometimes it is that, you feel guilty, or you feel like you're going to get in trouble for standing out, for showing up, for being seen. I mean, it's all literally related to when we were kids. And here we are adults, like going, I'm so prepared. I'm a master, or at least I want to master this. Right? I want to be, and here I am, like binge watching or scrolling or doing anything but the thing, or busy work, right? Just acting like you're getting something done. Yeah.
Well, so I'm an 80s girl. A lot of my growing up was done in the 80s, late 70s and early 80s. And the visual that came in for me while I was listening to you was brake burns. Some of y'all might not know what a brake burn is, but some of you might know. And that was that your foot was on the brake and the gas at the same time.
That's the stress.
Exactly. So that programming is the brake, and our conscious stuff is, I'm active, I'm doing this. So I put the gas on and we got a whole lot of smoke going on, but we're not going anywhere.
And it causes stress in the body. It really actually does. And that stress can pile up, and it can have effects that people don't even realize. But all your mind thinks is, oh, my business is killing me. It's you go 1 foot on the gas, 1 foot on the brake. Stress is hurting you physically. And now you're going, oh yes, success makes people sick. Where'd that program come from? Right? People who are successful don't pay attention to their health. Oh, that's a program too. How about if we have it all? How about if we're healthy, wealthy, happy, having fun, adventures? How about if we have it all?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Because we can today. It's different.
So I'm going to take a quick pause here and how can our listeners, if they're really connecting to what you're sharing here, which they really should, how can they connect with you? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
It would be at unlockmoneyinyourmind.com. So unlockmoneyinyourmind.com is the easiest way for them to get more details on this, exactly what we're talking about, and to access a masterclass that will give them the keys to unlock the money in their mind. Okay, perfect.
So I'm going to talk a little bit more about uncovering those money blocks. What is a great way to start uncovering those things and actually pulling them out of our subconscious?
Well, the subconscious mind is the mind that you access when you're learning. It's also the mind that when your mind assimilates learning, I should say.
Okay.
So you go into the subconscious mind is working for you all the time. It's not some mysterious thing. And it's also when you realize that you've been in a kind of a daze, or if you have found yourself in a daydream, which I hope you do lots of daydreaming. Subconscious mind is actually really easy to access. So in this case, we just do a bit of breathing and centering, and then getting to ask the subconscious mind some specific questions, some questions around what you actually feel about money. And the thing is, most people don't even have to go inside to realize that they have anxiety around money. Even I could just use the words money, finances, budget, expenses, and people are already going, right? There's stuff going on. So that it's revealing what's really going on around money. So you may say, yes, I want to be, successful and wealthy and have this big impact on the world. You may even have a good reason to use your money somewhere, right? Really good intentions for your money. Yes, I feel good about money. And then you realize, oh, when I actually think about these words, riches, that's a good word. Riches, wealth, money. People want to use the word abundance because it's so darn soft and it skates all around those yucky feelings. And but really, why would the word rich give you anything, any emotional, what's going on there, right? So you can feel really it. Good. So even without going into that space of just taking a few deep breaths and then asking the subconscious mind these questions, how would you, if I'm really, really wealthy, what do I give up? If I charge a lot for my services, people will think I am, right? So we ask the subconscious mind, and it'll give you the truth about what you think. And so you think you're procrastinating because you find technology difficult, or because because the people around you are just stressful. They're pain, or you have these external reasons that you think that's why. Right. But really, if you dig in, you go, oh, well, yeah, I knew that consciously. Well, that's what's keeping you from actually doing the thing. So subconscious it's not actually hard to reach to ask those questions, but the actual reprogramming bit takes a little more getting down into trance. And again, trance is not some weird thing either. You are in trance, as I said. Every time you're assimilating learning, your mind actually goes into a little state of trance to assimilate learning. Yeah. Whenever you've driven home and you forgot where you didn't even think about the drive, you were in a trance. So, and you've taken in a lot of suggestions over your life. You should be aware of that. And from this point forward, maybe you'll think about that and consider only taking in suggestions that are helpful for you, that are empowering, that are life affirming. Things like you can have your health and your career. You can have a beautiful, happy family and achieve that impact that you want to have with your career. All of this is available to you. That's the kind of suggestions you want to take in versus what the world is trying to continually teach you, which is you're not good enough, buy stuff, debt is good. and keep working. You can sleep when you're dead. Something like that. And shop. So you have to keep working because there's a lot of subconscious programming that's going in that isn't supporting you. Much better for you to be at the helm of what's going in, that's running the program.
So that makes me wonder because, a lot of us, and I speak from my own personal experience, where when the stress comes in, I do numbing things so that I don't feel the stress. Am I actually leaving myself more vulnerable to those negative suggestions by numbing myself like that?
Numbing is not going to actually relieve the stress.
Mm-hmm.
It's much better to do things that actually do relieve stress, like some kind of deep breathing, releasing exercise to get endorphins into the body, something to neutralize the chemicals of stress.
Okay.
Because numbing essentially is you're not wanting to deal with whatever is in your environment.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And we don't, you've got to be able to walk through the hard things and know that you're strong enough to do that. And when you do that, you realize that you get less stress next time it comes around. So instead of numbing through it, walking through it, you realize, oh, I survived. I got through it. It wasn't so bad. So the next time it doesn't even necessarily register as bad as stress. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
But numbing is essentially, it's kind of a freeze response. It's
true.
I'm not going to feel this. I'm going to go somewhere else. And people do things, and I can't discount the fact that a piece of chocolate cake hits some endorphins in the brain, right? Right. But so does some good, deep hypnosis and imagining, and raising those good emotions, heart coherence, raising those good emotions in your body. It raises the same level of endorphins. And then you're not dealing with the sugar crash and the guilt and shame for having eaten the piece of cake. Maybe it's a little slice of cake, because we all deserve a little piece of cake, but not because you're stressed, but because it was a celebration. Somebody handed it to you. It's a big difference, right? Big difference of why you're going for the cake, when the cake shows up in your life. When is cake part of your life? That's a good question, isn't it?
It is. Because what I'm also hearing is that we are empowering ourselves. So when we bring in choice of how we manage some of those stress levels that come in. Stress is not necessarily bad, but it's our interpretation and how we manage it that brings in bad.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, what happened was just the facts. Something happened. And then it's how we perceive it, the thoughts that we have, the emotions that go up in the body. Your stressors, things happen. Stress is how you're physically responding to it. You're physically responding to it because of your thoughts. So you think of a stressor, right? So I don't know, a basketball comes and flies at my face. That's a stressor.
Yeah.
In my mind, basketball. But it's how I interpret it, right? It's what happens inside of me. It's the thoughts that go in my mind. It's the feelings that well up in me, or the ones I try to suppress. That's our stress response. And so we totally can decide that basketball hit my face. Okay, well, ice. I'll be okay. Thank goodness it didn't hit me somewhere else. You have a choice. thing. Oh, woe is me. I always get hit in the face with balls. You know what I mean? Like you can really like spiral. It's a choice. It's all, and it's literally thoughts.
Okay. Okay. I get that. Like I know one of the things, one of the shifts that I used with my words in response to my money planning, money planning, right? So because instead of a budget,
Yes,
I chose
good.
a spending plan.
Great. I love
Right.
it.
And so those are kind of some of those things where we're managing our perception of it as well. And what I'm hearing though too is while that supports me, to actually get rid of the program would be a long-term solution versus that short-term management technique.
That's right. Yeah. And the conscious effort that it takes for you to remember to do that every time will no longer be a conscious effort. It'll just be what you do. Okay.
Got it.
Because we are, we're good at we can be pretty good at creating new habits consciously. We have, but it takes that willpower, right? To stay at it and to do it and to do it and to do it and to do it. And eventually that's how you create a habit. It's cool. It's easy. When you do things with hypnosis, essentially the only willpower you need is to decide to do hypnosis because, right, to actually sit and do it or to have, and because then the habit's installed. So you're just excited to do your money planning. You're excited to decide where you get to grow your money, where it gets to go. You're excited to look at how the numbers are coming in and how they're growing. You're excited about that. And that was an installation versus something that you've got to do consciously and change. So I said like the nudge, you get the nudge, the internal motivation to do a thing that is essentially wealth promoting versus anything else.
Okay.
And that's because it's at the level of the subconscious versus the conscious.
Right. Well, and I think just even noticing the difference between getting excited about looking at the planning versus saying, I'm planning. I'm doing my spending plan. Okay, that feels better than budgeting. It's kind of like skirting around it, like saying it's abundance versus wealth, right? Like there's a little bit of skirting, and not that it's bad because it certainly feels better. Yeah.
It's neutralized over there with the way you've done it, which is better than the negative, definitely. But yeah, excited to manage your money, excited to grow your money, excited to look at the numbers, excited to see what money is doing today. Money's fun. Like excited about it is a totally different way of looking at it. And most people that I meet are totally not excited about the numbers. Looking at the numbers is one of the hardest things in the world for them.
Well, and yet if you're an entrepreneur and you're building a business, in order for you to make choices and strategic decisions within your business, you need to be able to look at those numbers.
You have to look at those numbers.
You have to, because in order to see, okay, this worked, this didn't work, this worked, this didn't work.
Yeah.
Now I can choose to do more of what did work because I actually can look at these numbers.
Yeah, totally.
So how different would your business be if you were able to joyfully look at those numbers and just like peacefully observe, exactly,
without all the triggers, without looking them and thinking, I'm going to starve to death and die.
Exactly.
Because that's the trigger. That's what's going on inside. It's like, I'm not trying to be rude, but most people who are watching this are watching on internet, a computer, probably a phone. Have you ever actually been at the risk of starving to death? Or have you in your life made usually enough? Maybe more, maybe less, a little bit. But have you ever really been at that point that is justifying the way that you feel about the numbers? No. Definitely, 9 times out of 10, no. And if they did, when I was a kid. And I say, yeah, because your parents didn't have the opportunity that you have that is all around you now. So if you did experience hunger as a child, which I can't say that's common enough, yes.
Yes.
But our families, we lived in a different time, and their families, they lived through the Depression. There has been times when it was really dangerous, but it's, for the most part, you're going to be all right. And it's worth your turning up the optimism a bit about this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having a hope for the future and imagining taking this beautiful brain of yours and putting it towards a potential future where that number gets to add a 0 and then another one and a comma. Like, you could put your brain in that way,
Mm-hmm.
wealth programming, and then suddenly you're going to see, how am I going to get those commas? Oh, that might be a way to get a comma, right? Because otherwise, all you're thinking of is survival. You're in the now. Again, we go back to that same place, right? That's the survival place. And often it's freeze. Often it's procrastination. Often it's, you can't even, not even, let alone see any opportunity. You're not taking action on any opportunities because you're not looking at anything. You're literally like in this place. So yeah, it's what we do with Unlock Money in Your Mind is actually massive. And it goes far beyond money because it has everything to do with feeling good. I mean, really at the core of this, it is changing your neurochemistry around money and around what you deserve and what life can be like. How happy do you deserve to be as an adult? Like, do you deserve to feel significant? To know that your work is significant? Do you deserve to feel like your work makes an impact in the world? Do you deserve the joy that will inevitably result when you get to write a check with a comma or two to something that really means something to you? And if you don't get that foot off the brake, what is the point? What is the chance of you writing that check with a comma or 2 or 3?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's just not. And so this idea that money's the root of all evil or rich people are jerks, well, guess what? It ain't evil because it's going to do a lot of good in your hands. And 2, are you a jerk? No, I didn't think so, because you want to write a check with some commas to something that you really believe in, right? So you're not a jerk. It's all, conscious, but we can work on that unconsciously. But it is that important. It's not just about you making more money, though. For most people, making more money, that would be a heck of a lot of, a breather. Then that's just the beginning. That is just the beginning of what we do.
So basically what I'm hearing is that if you want to unlock the money in your mind, you are actually pulling yourself out of the stress response, maybe initially moving into neutral, and then actually starting to install the programming that is going to move you forward, going to be supporting you to be impactful the way your heart and spirit knows you're supposed to be.
Without the conditioning of the world, the brakes, the poverty programming. I mean, I use all these words. It's the subconscious programming. Yes, It's who you are. Because all of that ick, it's not you. That's programming, negative programming. The joyful one that you described at the end of that road, that's who you are, really, without all of that baggage.
Awesome. Very awesome. So we're pretty much at the end of our time. So I want to make sure that our listeners know exactly where to go find you.
They can go to unlockmoneyinyourmind.com. Unlockmoneyinyourmind.com. I'm Melanie McCool. You can find me on Facebook and on YouTube as well. So if that finding the URL is any problem, just look up Melanie McCool Hypnotherapist and you will find me.
Perfect. Awesome. So thank you so much, Melanie, for sharing your time and your insights around unlocking the money in our mind. I'm super grateful for you coming and sharing your time with us.
Thanks for having me, Velma. Appreciate it.
And the listeners, I want to thank you again for coming and sharing your time with us. I hope this was a contribution to you. Make sure you hit Facebook and find Heartrepreneurs with Terri Levine. You'll be able to connect with more heart-centered entrepreneurs like yourself, like me, like Terri, and make sure you like and subscribe. And we love those 5-star reviews. We will see you next week.
You've been listening to Heartrepreneur Radio, maximizing your personal and business results by leading with your heart with your host, Terri Levine. This show is produced every week for your enjoyment and education. To make sure you never miss a single show, add us to your favorite RSS feed or subscribe in iTunes. You can also read Terri's latest blog posts at www.heartrepreneur.com/blog or follow Terri on Twitter at MentorTerri and on Facebook.com/Heartrepreneur Terri Levine. Your questions and comments are always welcome and appreciated. Send them to Terri on either Facebook or Twitter. Thank you for listening.